So first, let me talk a little bit about where the industry is going. In short, it can be summarized. It's gone from 0 to 60 in 4 short years. Did you know that creating a high-quality children's book app can cost more than $50,000 to produce today? Did you know that just 2 years ago, before the iPad was released, app developers only had to support a single OS, iOS, and a single format, the iPhone, right? Things have exploded. By contrast, today, developers and publishers have to support multiple OSs, lots of different device formats. There was a recent article that came out that I tweeted about that said there was an Android developer that started tracking the number of devices that they saw off of their one app, 4,000 different SKUs, when they correlated all the different pieces of hardware to the versions of OS and everything. It's unreal. It's really crazy. Did you know that there are over 650,000 apps on the App Store today? They're in the neighborhood of 50,000 book apps on the App Store. So, it's really no surprise that the space is getting more costly, more complex, and more crowded every day. And the bottom line is that entering the mobile space today can be daunting, and it's not going to be any easier tomorrow or the day after that. So, imagine if there was a way to have great classic books adapted into apps with no financial risk. Imagine if there was a way to get apps on all leading platforms in one fell swoop. And imagine if there was a way to guarantee that your apps would chart in the top 50 of the books category within 48 hours of launch. There's no reason to imagine, because that's what we do. And what I just told you is our elevator pitch when we go into publishers. That's our promise. That's what we deliver. So Oceanhouse Media, in summary, is one of the world's leading digital publishers. We have an emphasis on adapting children's titles into apps, classic children's titles that have already done well in print form. Knowing what you do and what you do not do is a critical part of your success. The tagline that we have there, apps that uplift, educate, and inspire, we decided upon within the first week of founding the business. We didn't sign Dr. Seuss until 10 months later. We knew where we were going. We just didn't know exactly how we were going to get there. So the first thing I'll leave you with is knowing exactly where you're going. So a couple of stats. 1,200. 1,200. This is my eldest daughter, Kentia. She's in the back of the room today. 1,200 is the approximate number of days of life between these two pictures. She's 6 weeks old on the left. She's 3.5 years old, swimming underwater on the right. That's also exactly the amount of time that the business has been in existence. We started Oceanhouse Media when Kentia was 6 weeks old. Talk about having 2 startups at the same time. So our existence as a business has really mirrored her life from infancy all the way through her to now swimming.
Michelle, she's here, right?
She's here. She's in the back, and I'm sure she'll be happy to wave. Kentia, would you like to wave? And her sister's waving also. She's in the back. The business and Kentia learned how to crawl together. They learned how to stand together. They learned how to run and walk together. And as a business, we're now up to swimming. But it's still a little treacherous, and we're still being very cautious with every step. Or every paddle, I guess. 50,000. 50,000. 50,000 is the number of people that would be sitting in the stadium there. 50,000 is also the number of copies that we've sold of the very first app that we shipped 3.5 years ago. It's a lot when you step back and think about it. Thank you. Thanks. It's a fun, simple little app. It's $1.99. It was built in 51 days for a cost of effectively $0, right? The way that we did it, and I talked about that in the last talk. And I love how this business things just keep on going. It just perpetuates, right? I mean, we thought we had to sell 10,000 copies of this app in order to survive and have a business. It's at 50,000. It's still going today. It'll be interesting to see where it actually goes and how many years it'll go. 234. I mentioned this yesterday. We'll see if anyone picked up on it. 234 is the number of iOS apps that we have shipping as of today. So every one of those icons is a shipping app, and there's a couple more that aren't even on there. We are still releasing apps at a rate of 1 or 2 per week, and at any given time, we have about 30 apps in development. 100. 100 is the number of children's books. We call them OHM books, Oceanhouse Media Digital Books. It's the number of children's books that we have available under our, that we're shipping today. So we're excited about that. 1 million. 1 million's a fun number. 1 million's a fun number. When you do anything 1 million times, it finally starts to get substantial. And we were really, really happy on January 20th of this year when we were able to announce in the Wall Street Journal that we'd already sold 1 million copies of Dr. Seuss apps just on iOS, and just the books, not the games. So we've hit a really significant milestone, and we're really excited about that. And then to round them off, 1. 1 is the number that a lot of us in this room have been trying to get to. I've been trying to get to it for a long time, and we finally got there. And for the first time on the App Store, we hit number 1. We had a number 1 app on iPad, overall, all categories, and it was really fun. And, you know, I can take very little credit for it. I mean, Ted Geisel, Dr. Seuss, is a master, and the fact that Universal put out a movie with a $100 million marketing budget behind it that weekend helped a lot, not a little bit, a lot, but it was still really fun to get there. And so we were really, really excited about that. So moving into what's new, the core part of what Warren asked me to come talk about. What have we been doing? The first thing is we've been growing. What a lot of you don't know is that when I presented last year, we were still running the business out of my house. So I had a handful of employees. They were coming up and driving in the neighborhood, and we finally moved into an office space that we're excited about, and it's giving us the opportunity to grow more. But last year we had 3 or 4 full-time employees. Now we're up to 10. We still work with a lot of contractors, but we have a very, very efficient crew, and we put a lot of energy into our tools and our technology. We're investing. We announced a new teachers portal recently. This is just something that we're doing as a way to give back, to reach out to teachers, and hopefully we're going to get a lot of feedback from them. We're starting to work with new lines. I'm going to talk about this. We have a new line that we've done that's a combination with Dr. Seuss and Random House, their learning library series of books. We've started working with the Smithsonian. I'm going to show some of those. We're very, very focused in education. Also along those lines, for teachers, we're doing these teachers' guides now. And these are just free PDF downloads for a lot of our books that say, if you want to use this in a homeschool environment, if you want to use it in a classroom environment, here's some ideas of things you might want to try. Here's some questions you might want to prompt your kids with, just to give them a little bit of a head start. Clearly, parents and teachers know what they're doing, but I think, you know, there's always this opportunity. If you can give me more, maybe I'll take it. Maybe I'll use something. So we're just putting those out there for free. We're doing a lot of research. We've brought in a wonderful, wonderful gal named Liz Griffiths, who has a master's in developmental psychology from Columbia University Teaching College. And she's working with us in Encinitas, and we're starting to place, well, the school district was already placing iPads in the classroom. Children between 4th grade and 6th grade have access to iPads one-on-one, one kid for one iPad. And all the way down to the kindergarten level now, they're starting to place some test iPads, one iPad for every 5 kids. And we're going in and we're observing, and we're really seeing what's working and what's not working, and we're getting feedback from those teachers. And we're going to be starting to go through some revisions on some of our apps. Some of the things that we thought that were working well, we think we can get them even better. So as we've always done with the books, you know, the Cat in the Hat, the app, since we came out with it over 2.5 years ago, has gone through 8 or 9 major significant updates. including new features being added, and we have a couple more really significant revisions coming based upon the data that we're getting back and the feedback that we're getting from teachers. We do see that this is going to be the year that a lot of schools are going to be using iPads, and we're really excited about that. We're starting to give back. We haven't talked about it a lot, but because I'm in this room, I'll mention it. We're starting to give back iPads. This is the first one that we gave away. That's my wife and our daughters are there in the front. And in this case, we're giving an iPad to a local hospital, and they have a classroom, a preschool that's it's all autistic kids. And so we're looking for new opportunities to just go and give back and do more. We feel like that's going to be a real important part of our purpose moving forward. We're learning a lot, and we're learning how the apps are being used in ways that we didn't foresee. This is Sam, and Sam is autistic, and we're finding that a lot of autistic families are using our apps, way more than we ever anticipated. And so we're listening to those parents, and we're listening to those teachers to find out why it works. In Sam's mother's words, she says, Sam's been reading since he was 3. Because he's autistic and thus perceives the world as such a loud, bright, and overwhelming place, he finds order and repetition soothing. He's been focusing on letters since before he was 18 months old. He can trust letters. The OM books that we've got have enchanted Sam and taught him to be more imaginative as he reads his other books. He has a weekly ritual of reading. He has 3 on his device right now, reading each of those books, and he goes through word by word, tapping each word, touching every picture, and he's just absolutely delighted. And it's one thing to see your apps used in a normal classroom environment, but if appropriate, it's really something else to see your apps used by autistic kids or other special needs kids. You learn so much. It's incredible. So we're really paying attention to that. And then with gratitude, we're receiving the San Diego Greater Reading Association recognized us with a literacy award for pushing forward the agenda of literacy, and that's my beautiful wife Karen receiving the award. All right, so as well as things have been going, there are still a number of challenges. There's a huge problem with discoverability in this space. It's getting worse. Apple could do a lot to assist. So, for the fear of, with a little bit of fear that there might be anyone from Apple in the room or possibly watching a future webcast, a bit of an open letter to Apple. So first off, Apple, we love what you've done in creating a vibrant ecosystem, but things have gotten really crowded really fast. And respectfully, it's time to address a few core issues. Number 1, why are people still purchasing apps on iTunes? I mean, I get it. 4 years ago, apps needed a convenient place to live, but they really need a better home now. Either give the apps more prominence somewhere else, separate applications, something where people can go to, or change the name away from iTunes. Because moms don't really know where to go and how to find apps. It's a very, very confusing story to try to teach them that that's where you go. Number 2, this tiny navigation bar at the top of iTunes is pretty darn horrible. The apps are buried. And by the way, very few people know that these are actually pull-down menus. Is this really where you'd go to navigate to find a book app for your iPad? It says books on there, right? Or would you go here? Would you simply click the big thing that says books on the top? The confusion between iBooks and books as apps is a huge problem. Apple may not see it that way, but for developers, it's a huge problem. Now, a lot of people are looking for book content on the iPad, and sorry, not everything works in iBooks. If it did, we would use it, but it doesn't for what we need, so we develop apps. So, is it your intention to bury the books that are developed, or are you going to figure out a way to have both of them coexist side by side? Number 4, why do games have subcategories when other categories do not? Right? There's like 50,000 book apps in this one category by itself. Do you really think it's appropriate for university-level college textbooks to be sitting next to Cat in the Hat? Right? It's one table. It's a little insane. I got it. You had to launch. You figured it out. There was a system that was there. But you know what? 4 years have gone by. There's plenty of money being made. It's time to break these things down into some subcategories. Number 5, discoverability is a real problem. For those of you that are unaware, hopefully you all are, Apple offers a 5% affiliate commission to anyone that's able to send traffic into the App Store to then create a purchase. Now, here's the proposal. If you change your affiliate commission from 5% to 10% and change it so that it's not just the US, Canada, Mexico, and the UK, but make it worldwide, you will have a large enough carrot for developers to go out and create amazing discoverability, curation solutions. And off of that 10%, they'll be able to make enough money to have a thriving business to do it, and the developers will solve your problem for you. So, anyhow, an extra 5% out of Apple at this size of the market is not a huge deal, and it would change everything for developers around the world. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox. So, what have we been up to? We've been doing a couple of lines recently that I think are worth talking about. We have a new line from Dr. Seuss and Random House. These are books that were written after Ted Geisel passed away. We already have 2 of these titles released. They are basically cat in the hat stories that are told in rhyme that are teaching STEM concepts. They're pushing on the high end of app pricing, if you can believe that, at $5.99. It's a little hard to say that that's at the high end. But the first title was There's No Place Like Space. The second one was all about dinosaurs. And then the 2 that I can talk about now that we have not yet released. The first one is Ice is Nice. And then the second one is A Whale of a Tale. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to go over and show a couple of these just so you can see where we're going and how the apps are evolving and the engine is evolving. And I'll try to go back and forth here a little bit. So this is Ice is Nice.
The Cat in the Hat's Learning Library. Ice is nice.
Yep. I'm going to jump into the middle of the story.
Penguins of all kinds get here on ice floes because penguins can't fly, as everyone knows.
So, simple navigation.
They have stubby legs and waddle, you know. They bob back and forth, and the going is slow.
We've brought across many of the features that we have in the classic books.
Waddle. Fourth.
I have an incomplete glossary in here, so that's why not all the words are going to work.
But way down deep in these Antarctic seas, the penguins can swim with the greatest of ease.
So what we're doing is just basic, 2.5D animation, simple transition type stuff. At the core, it's still a book, and it's still all about learning, but we're starting to add a mild level of animation on top.
Have you heard of this thing that is called climate change? It means the Earth's temperatures are shifting in range.
I'm going to click on the bold, but I'm going to do it in the second book because this one doesn't have all the glossary items in. But I wanted to show this page because it gives you an idea of what we've done with taking original 2-page spreads of a printed book and how we have a build out so you can see the actual page come based upon the
Earth's
story.
getting warmer, and the polar ice is melting quite quickly, which isn't so nice. Students and scientists from dozens of nations are studying the poles from ships, planes, and stations.
We still have all the picture word association in.
Satellite dish. Student. Researcher.
Oh, my.
Their satellites watch the weather and ice. They track climate change and check their facts twice.
Okay, so you get an idea of that. Let me hop over to Whale of a Tale so you can see something a little bit different. We put a lot of time and energy into our production value. We put a lot into our tools and technology.
The Cat in the Hat's Learning Library. A Whale of a Tale.
When we moved into an office, we actually built out a full VO booth, so we now do all of our own in-house VO.
The dolphin has a way of looking around by forming a picture that's made out of sound. It sends out a sound at a high, steady rate. The sound bouncing back makes its jawbone vibrate.
Let me see if this one's going to work for me.
Vibrate. To move back and forth at a very rapid rate.
So anytime you see a bold word, you can get just that, and then it's age-appropriate glossary definition, and then some custom interactivity on the different pages.
Irrawaddy dolphin.
So in this case, you can see exactly how this is working with sonar. This page isn't quite done yet.
Echolocation is the word that we call the underwater way that dolphins see all.
And I'll just do one more here.
Most dolphins could win Mommy of the Year. They care for their young and keep them quite near.
So you get an idea where we're going. We're really excited about that. As I've said, this is going to be... We have two out. We have two more coming very soon, and that entire line, based off of that one set of core engine technology, will probably end up being 2 or 3 dozen apps, each one targeting a different aspect of science or math or money or whatever it happens to be. You can leave it on the iPad if you want. So the next one, we don't always do only children's books. People think about us doing children's books, but I want to talk about an app that was in development for quite a while, and we just love the way it came out. So this is Dr. Seuss Band. How many people in the room have seen Dr. Seuss Band? People seen it? Wow, okay. Well then, hopefully you're in for a fun time. This has been #1 in the music games category on iPad for a while. It ping-pongs in the top 5. And basically we sat back and we said, if Dr. Seuss were to create a musical instrument, what would he have created? All right, so it's a pretty wild out there question. Yeah, you can, okay, there shouldn't be any music yet, I don't think. So here's the basic idea. Right, but, you know, Ted wouldn't just be happy with that. He might be wanting to do something like this. While I'm playing, swap out to a different instrument. And you can change out the reverb on them. Now again, this is for kids, so that's not really quite enough. So what do kids really want? They want deep reverb. They want to go through a train whistle, bellows, and maybe even through a fishbowl. Okay? Now that's not really enough either, so you can go up and down in octaves. Let me get to something. Okay, so you've got this basic free play thing, and then we took it one step further and said, but what if it was kind of a little bit more like a rock band-ish type thing? So we're really, really happy with the way this app came out. It's doing great, and you know, what we've done is we've put in all this music that we had. You know, for every Dr. Seuss book that we've done in the book category, we've actually created a custom score for it from scratch. And so now we're reusing all of that music, and we've put it into Dr. Seuss Band. So we're really, really happy with the way that this has gone. And we're going to be building on that and adding more instruments. This is just the horn version of it. And I don't think I'm spoiling anything by saying we're coming with drums next. And then we're just going to keep on going. And the reason there's a reason it's called Dr. Seuss Band and not Dr. Seuss Horn. I might take questions at the end if that's all right. Okay. Let me see. I can. I thought it might be good. Let me because it's hard to switch back and forth. Let me just do a couple more demos real quick. Let me see. Let me just show you a little bit of the Smithsonian line and where we're going with this. So,
Polar Bear Horizon by Janet Hoffman. Illustrated by Adrian Chesterman.
So these are really nice, scientifically accurate, educational books, great production value. And then let me just show you what they look like. And I kind of, again, start in the middle of this one a little bit more.
Polar Bear spots a big male bear in the distance. The male comes closer.
Bear. Snowbank.
Polar Bear spots a big male
I went
bear.
backwards.
Polar Bear growls and rushes at him. The big male turns and lumbers away.
So again, just age-appropriate content. Touching any word gives you the word.
Growls. And rushes.
That's becoming a standard, just a required thing. I mean, 2-3 years ago, none of the apps were doing this, touching every individual word, and now everything just absolutely has to have it. And then, so that's, with Learning Library and some of the Smithsonian stuff, we've been going a little bit older, but then we've also been going younger. So I want to show you this one, Byron Barton. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar.
Planes by Byron Barton.
You got it? My daughters are going nuts because they love this one. So again, just super simple how to get in. I don't know how many of you are familiar with these. It's a great board book series. We weren't really sure where we were going to go with it initially, but
In the Sky.
we decided to keep it super, super simple. That's the entirety of page 1.
Sky.
You can play with the clouds. You get, ton of just immediate,
Airplanes are flying.
what you touch, it moves. It's very reactive.
This is a jet plane with people inside.
And you can play around with the plane. So I'll
Here is
stop
a
on this page.
seaplane landing on water.
The thing is, I feel like a lot of developers do too much. I think kids are getting ADD from some of the things that they're touching. There's so much shiny and there's so much going on. And it's amazing if you just focus their attention and keep it simple, how well it actually works.
Seaplane.
It's got to be
Jet.
clean, it's got to be snappy, but it doesn't mean that you have to have tons and tons of things going all over the place. And I have no problem at all letting my 2-year-old sit down with this app and letting her drive the entire thing completely by herself, which I'm really happy about that. Okay, we can go back to the main talk over here. So another thing that we're doing, I won't show this, but earlier this year we decided to start doing collections. And speaking from a little bit of a business standpoint, I can tell you that the collections have done very well for us. So now we've reached a point where we're trying to increase the overall price of an app. So you have to increase the amount of content, but then also getting the price up. So we have 2 Dr. Seuss collections now, and they're $12 each. You get 5 books for $12. It's kind of a no-brainer, but it's allowing us to start to get more apps up the top of the top grossing chart. And it also helps to solve some of the cluttering things that are going on. So I wanted to talk a little bit about secret sauce. This is coming from Teo's talk last night. And while I've been sitting here for the last 24 hours, I put together a list of the 6 things that I feel are really our secret sauce. And I'm just going to kind of rattle them out, and then we can get into a dialogue about where book apps are going. First off, he talked about great stories. I agree with that 100%. Number 1 for us is great partners, great brands. That's actually where we get our great stories. So we're not spending a lot of our cycles creating great stories. Ted did that for us. The Berensteins did that for us. Mercer Mayer did that for us. And just by virtue of partnering with the right people, we get great content to start with. Number 2 is great engineering, great development. And again, this was touched in the great talk by Tokuboka. It's process. We have a really, really tight, solid process. There's a reason why we can have 30 apps in development today with a team of 10 people. It's because the process is nailed. We know exactly how we're going to do it. and there's some books that are going through VO, and there's some that are getting music, and there's some that are getting implemented, and they all just kind of move along. Like, we figured out the process of how things work, and then separately we have this sort of sandbox playground, which is where the stuff like Dr. Seuss Band comes up. So we're kind of sitting on both sides, right? Number 3 is high production value. We really do put a lot of importance. I talked about it last year, 5 stars or no stars. The production value, the quality of the voiceover, the quality of the music, the quality of the graphic design and icon design. It's really, really important. Number 4 is knowing what not to put into an app. It's focus. It's focus. Again, I think it's really easy in this space. Let me see. I'm going to borrow a quote from Cameron Herold, who said that he doesn't suffer from ADD. He suffers from ADOS, attention deficit. Oh, shiny, right? And it's so easy to just see what you've got and keep adding and keep adding and keep adding. The Byron Barton app is great because it's simple, because it only does a handful of things that it does really, really well, and those things are really, really polished. Number 5, I think a lot of people miss, and I think it's this year you can't miss. It's great PR and marketing. I think a lot of people in this space still think that you can take an app and throw it over the wall, get it onto the App Store, and just hope and pray that it'll get picked up by Apple. And the reality is that you just can't do that anymore. Each of our apps is kind of built on the business plan that if Apple never features this app, will it still be profitable? And then if they do feature it, it becomes a bonus. And in order to do that, we have a full-time PR person, we have a full-time marketing person, and a lot of energy goes into marketing and what we do and the cross-promotion of our apps. And then finally, number 6 is iterative speed. I think it helps, the number of apps we're doing and the speed with which we're doing them. Doing 1 to 2 apps per week means that we learn a lot and we fail a lot. We learn what's working, we learn what's not working, and we just keep on going, and we're learning from that. Thought it would be good to move a little bit into the next 365, and this can probably be the launch point for the discussion with probably about 10 minutes as I get to the end here. Number 1, without a doubt, there's a lot of investment and equity deals that are coming into this space. We've been approached by over a dozen very serious investment companies looking to invest. We have not done a deal. We're not planning on doing a deal. And I'm sure that other people in this room have been approached. But this is going to be the start of a lot of VC guys kind of sniffing. It's going to turn into a little bit of a shark feeding frenzy, I believe, because they see opportunity. Number 2, specifically for children's books, I think we're going to see a lot of glorified PDF book readers. There's a lot of people that think that you have to get to scale, but to get to scale you can't put the time and energy into the book, so we're just going to take the exact book the way it was laid out and cram it down onto the screen and make it work, and maybe you click and it zooms up or this or whatever, and they're not taking the time to adapt the book properly for a small device. And I think a lot of those readers are going to fail, just my personal opinion, but we're going to see a lot of those. Number 3, I can't believe how many of these we're already getting and how it's just kicked in 2012. You're going to see a lot of apps that are going to be based around the concept of subscription. You're going to hear it, subscription. Just give us X amount of money per month and you're going to have access to 1,000 books. Or you're going to have, whatever it happens to be. And I think you have to step back and ask yourself, how many types of subscriptions is mom really going to want to subscribe to? And is any one player really ever going to be able to become Netflix, right? Netflix works as a subscription because it gets content from every movie studio out there. Are any one of these companies really going to be able to get to scale where they're going to be able to get all of the important children's book apps there? And if they can't, is it going to be a real tough sell on the subscription side? You're going to hear a lot of it. Number 4, there's going to be a lot of Android noise. We're seeing a lot of kids' tablets that are Android specific this year. I'm not sure how many of those are going to be around in a year or 2 years? You know, we're all hearing the same rumors. I think there's a very good chance that Apple could come out with a smaller iPad. Let's say for argument's sake that they do. For argument's sake, let's imagine that they come out with a smaller iPad, smaller screen, easier to throw in your coat pocket, backpack, whatever, and let's say it's, I don't know, half the price. I'm making this up. I have no idea what Apple's actually working on, but I read the same blogs you guys read. If they do come out with something like that, one of those devices, all of those Android tablets that are out there today are going to be severely challenged from a business standpoint. So I do think that Apple has won this war, and I think they're going to continue to make more. They're going to take steps to make sure that they've stayed on top. And then number 5, the last one. There's a lot of people trying to be the curation, the tracker, the organizer of all of this content. And I really hope that a couple of these folks are successful. I'd really like to see a great site that can have all of the kids' media and have it all categorized well. And I'd like those people to be paid well for their efforts, which is why I was talking about what I'd like to see Apple do. So, you know, that's what I'm thinking. That's where we are. That's what I have prepared. I've got about 10 more minutes if Warren will let me have it. I'd love to have a little discussion about children's book apps, how crowded the space is, and where people think it's going, and what am I not talking about that I should be talking about. I'm happy to answer any questions that I can, and I just prepared what I thought would be interesting, but tell me what you really want to hear about.